Alrighty, welcome to the Transparency. Good evening, Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard. Again, welcome to Truth and Transparency. Saying hello to all the moderators, all the members. What's up, Pisces? All my Pisces out there. Can you have slow mode? Sure you can. Only because I love you, Bumblebee. I'm just kidding. Again, welcome back to Truth and Transparency. I feel like I've been on a date with you guys all day today. Let me go ahead and get that into slow mode for you there. All right, you should be good there. Again, welcome back to the Transparency. I'm going to be talking about this for about 50 minutes, a 50-minute live. Tomorrow morning, I do have a live scheduled for the search for Sherry, so I will be putting some time into that before I hit the hay. So here we go. Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate that. Jessica just found your channel, and I love it. I love that you love it. Thank you. Good evening, Lana Mods chat. Absolutely. Again, a lot has happened in the last couple hours, but we're going to keep it as factual as we can here. So hopefully all of those notifications kicked in. Here we go. Absolutely, yeah. Go Buckeyes, no doubt, tomorrow night. What you guys are looking at right now, that is a picture of Bryan's home, his parents' home, rather. And the neighbor was able to be interviewed across the street. But that is the home. The bottom window in the middle there, the popped out screen. I have a closer view, so I'll show you guys. There's a screen popped out there. But I liked this view the best because it shows you how it sits back a little bit. You know, the houses aren't on top of each other. But this was actually at Bryan's parents' house. So that's what that picture is. This right here is where we're going to start. Bryan attended Washington State University, but where was he before that? So born in 1994, Bryan, now 28, has and was taken into custody Friday at a home. Just showed you guys that picture. Right here, this was important for me when I was reading this. You know, after enrolling in 2020, Bryan graduated from DeSales University in Allentown, Pennsylvania, with a Master of Arts in Criminal Justice in May 2022. So this is really important, guys. Bryan finished up in May in Pennsylvania, 2022, and had made a decision at some point that where he was going to go do his PhD and he was enrolled WSU for the fall semester. So that'd be August 2022. So he travels across the country and begins taking his classes, but also teaching. Right here after enrolling, again, 2020, He graduated from DeSales. Prior to that, he graduated 2018 from the community college that you guys saw earlier. And here, I don't want that one yet. I want this one. In Washington, once he got there, the fall course catalog, Bryan is also listed as an assistant instructor for 3 undergrad criminal justice courses. The Department Criminal Justice Club advisor and global director. The 3 courses finished on December 9th, according to the online course catalog. Check this out. On December 7th, that is the first time that it comes out by authorities that they are looking for the white Elantra, December 7th. Okay. So he had just gotten to Washington. That was important for me when I was going to be discussing, do we think that Bryan's the serial killer that killed in Oregon and all things like that. So he was in Pennsylvania. Okay. I don't know when or if he ever even looked at Washington State University in terms of taking like any type of trip out there. They could cross-reference maybe dates if he was out in that area, if he went to other schools to, look at their programs. But it was important for me to track him down to be able to eliminate or keep as a possibility, is he responsible for the stabbings elsewhere? So just as Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, Xana, and the 2 surviving roommates became all new roommates that year, this past year in August, Bryan, leaving his hometown, home area, did everything in Pennsylvania, travels across country, and starts this new venture and in August. And then the murders would happen, November 13th. So you have basically just a little bit of August, and then you have September, October, and then 2 weeks in November. So in a span of 2.5 months being out in in Washington. I think that that's very important. So again, all of his schooling took place in PA, and then just this past August, he gets in his car. Now, authorities will know when he decided, when he enrolled, when all of his paperwork was in. So he would have had only the 2 months and 2 weeks to connect with the 4 victims. Okay. Now the John Snyder guy, he would not comment further if on, he still had to teach these 3 classes. Did he do it? Was he there? Did he leave right after the murders? All of that stuff. They're going to, be able to question those people, be able to question the students, be able to question people that he was in school with. But basically September, October, and then 2 weeks in November. That's 2.5 months. That's it, guys, of him being in Washington, of him, so in May, however, in May of 2022, that's when Bryan started posting on Reddit about his, I say it's an experiment, but he started posting stuff on the Reddit looking for these ex-cons or people to fill out his questionnaire and answer his questions. So again, just talking about dates. I'm a date person. I'm a times person. The Elantra, they want information. The police, December 7th. December 9th, the courses would be rounding out, and then you got your finals. So again, this information is to be able to, when you're going to be talking about this guy, Bryan, who is he? Why these four? Why, what's going on here? How did this happen? Why did it happen? But I think that the big thing for me is when it's being repeated that this was a targeted, and even the words isolated targeted attack. How? Again, that's the home. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the, a couple of the interviews that I think are worthwhile would be the interview of the neighbor across the street. I can play that. And I'll play the interview with somebody that Bryan would go running with. Bryan would go running at night, and he would run from anywhere from 6 to 8 miles. So did Bryan, run? Like, was he acting like he was working, out that night or just going for a jog, whatever? But he was known to run 6 to 8 miles at nighttime. There has been sources that have been saying that the FBI, they started conducting surveillance, tracking his movements on the days before he was taken into custody. A comment that I think is one that should be, here we go. This is the reason that I'm doing this live tonight, is because of this comment. The family told ABC News on Friday that they don't know Kohberger, but are seeing connections between two that they aren't ready to discuss yet. The family said that they are happy, relieved, and thankful that there has been an arrest. I know there's talks about when I say that there's talks, there's going to always be like speculation and discussions and stuff like that. And I think that that's perfectly fine. The TikTok video came out, and we have a girl talking about Bryan being a heavy heroin user. A heavy heroin user. She thought that he got clean. So I want to back it up right there and just say, okay, so this guy was doing, she said, heroin in like high school. Then he goes on. So he goes to his community college, 2018, graduated from his community college, then goes on to DeSales, 2020, then does the grad program, 2022, graduated. May, he puts out those Reddit posts and then travels across country to do this PhD program, begins in late August 2022, and then roughly 10 weeks later decides to, commit a 4-person homicide with a knife on the campus. They can say it's an off-campus house, but University of Idaho. So what do we get? What do we think here? He cleans up his acts. He stops, gets clean, doesn't do drugs. What are we thinking? Truth and transparency. You tell me what we're thinking. I was in my investigation. I have the dad owning a Kia Forte, so I don't know what was taken from the house, but according to the neighbor across the street, she had seen what she had considered the owner of the vehicle driving that white vehicle, and had seen Bryan over the past couple weeks. So someone said it could have been a relapse. David, absolutely doing pretty good for a drug addict, right? Again, nothing can be confirmed. I mean, this is just somebody, putting that out there. So the facts, though, these are the facts. The facts are is how and if this was a targeted, isolated incident, how in the matter of 10 weeks did those 4 students or one of them or their house become the target of Bryan's experiment? That's why I'm calling it's like he planned this out, right? That's the narrative, is that he planned this out. He wrote these things in Reddit in May. He was, asking people how they would basically do stuff differently. You guys have seen the questions. And then within a 10-week period, how does he pick out, this house, these people? And let's see, here we go. Okay. Met them at the corner pub. Yep, you guys now think about this, where these 2 schools were 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, 10 to 15 minutes. So, of course, people can. What I think about it is when I went to University of Cincinnati, we had Xavier was right there. It was actually closer than this would be. But we had, University of Dayton, Miami. Those were like 30-minute, 45-minute, 50-minute drives. But Xavier, 1 exit, 2 exits away. So whenever you're hanging out in downtown Cincinnati and going to the bars down there, you're going to, be hanging out. You could potentially be hanging out with people from Xavier. There was Northern Kentucky right across the river. When we ever went into, Covington area, Northern Kentucky area, across the river, again, kids from that campus. So of course, do I think that he could cross paths with them? Absolutely. But where, why, how, knowing the layout of the house, everything like that. We're not talking about somebody that would have had a long time to know these people. And if you're just joining us now, he was in Pennsylvania and lived there his whole entire life. So as far as him being the serial killer that would have committed the other murders on the 13th, Friday, and stuff like that, right now, I don't see that, just because of his location. But that doesn't mean when he wasn't maybe possibly visiting colleges to pick where he wanted to go, did he do something like that? Sure, I don't know. But Again, do I think that he did this on heroin? I didn't say that. I'm just bringing up the fact that on November 13th, 14th, Monday, November 14th, though, I'm going to go through a little timeline for you. Monday, November 14th, Moscow police issued a statement, and they identified the four. Police said details were limited and no one was in custody. They added that the police do not believe there is an ongoing community risk based on information gathered during the preliminary investigation. Again, quote unquote, Monday, November 14th. The police do not believe there is an ongoing community risk based on information gathered during the preliminary investigation. Okay. Now, then the mayor, same day, went on to say the police do not believe there is an ongoing community risk based on information gathered during the preliminary investigation. However, we ask our employees to be flexible and to work with our students who desire to return home to spend time with their families. I'm sorry, that was by the president. Then Tuesday, November 15th. Again, the police issue a statement saying that an edged weapon such as a knife was used in the killings. So on the 14th, we get the first, and the 15th, we have the knife. Also, based on information from the preliminary investigation, investigators believe that this was an isolated, targeted attack, and there is no imminent threat to the community at large. It is very, very specific. Again, when you're saying the words, this was an isolated, targeted attack. This was said on Tuesday, November 15th. Later in the day, police released another statement on that Tuesday, November 15th. And they say, we hear you and we understand your fears. We determined early in the investigation that we do not believe there is an ongoing threat for community members. Evidence indicates that this was a targeted attack. This was on November 15th, Tuesday. Then Wednesday, November 16th. Police chief kind of backpedals just a tad with that we still want you to be, quote unquote. We cannot say there's no threat to the community. And as we have stated, please stay, vigilant, report any suspicious activity, and be aware of your surroundings at all times. On Wednesday, November 16th was when they said that 2 other roommates were home at the time of the attack and were not injured. There was other people home at the time, but we're not just focusing just on them. We're focusing on everybody that may be coming and going from that residence. Then, Thursday, November 17th. CNN interviewed a kid that says everybody kind of just went back home because they're scared. Friday, November 18th. This is when Mabbitt gets quoted. Mabbitt, the coroner, told CNN she saw, quote unquote, lots of blood on the wall when she arrived at the scene. She confirmed there were multiple stab wounds on each body, likely from the same weapon, but would not disclose how many wounds nor where most were located. Then Saturday, November 19th. Authorities spent about 2 hours at the crime scene again on Saturday, November 19th. Quote unquote, we're trying to expedite everything that might possibly lead to a suspect. And this was quoted by Prosecutor Bill Thompson, who, by the way, I'm a fan of. I thought he was amazing today. He was to the point, direct, and when we get him here, we're going to go ahead and release that, like they're not trying to hide anything. I thought he was direct and to the point. On Saturday, November 19th, he also says, I wish we had more answers, and they're still asking questions. Okay. Then Sunday, November 20th, police make it known that they had fielded 646 tips and conducted 90 interviews. That was one of the pressers was November 20th. And that's when Chief said, we're not going to talk about who made the 911 call. We're just saying that the 911 call came from inside the residence, from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones. And then this is when he also said that, quote unquote, friends that had arrived at the location were also there. And that he added that the person who called 911 is not a suspect. Tuesday, November 22nd, the police said that they have looked extensively into information suggesting that Kaylee had a stalker, but they have not been able to verify or identify one. That was on November 22nd. Wednesday, November 30th, the police department released a list of people who they believe are not involved in the crime, including the 2 surviving roommates, a man in the grub truck surveillance video, the private party driver, the man who Kaylee and Maddie called numerous times that night, and then the 911 caller, and the people that were there. And then on November 30th, Wednesday, November 30th, this is where the prosecutor, again, who I'm a fan of, Bill Thompson, says, he is quoted, said at least one of the victims was undoubtedly targeted in the attack. Soon after, the police said they spoke with Thompson and affirmed his comments were actually a miscommunication. Quote unquote, detectives do not currently know if the residents or any occupants were specifically targeted, but continue to investigate, police said, appearing to backtrack on earlier statements. Police then actually had to then go further to clarify that they believe the attack was indeed targeted. But investigators have not concluded if the target was the residents or its occupants. Again, this was all on November 30th, Wednesday. Here we go. Monday, December 5th. This is when they talk about it again of Kaylee possibly having a stalker, and the police came out and said that they have identified an incident in October in which 2 men were seen at a business and 1 man appeared to follow Kaylee inside and she exited to her car, blah, blah, blah. Investigators contacted both men and learned they were trying to meet women at this business. Detectives said they believe this was an isolated incident and not a pattern of stalking, and said there was no evidence to suggest the men were involved in the killing. Again, this was Monday, December 5th. Again, investigators are saying that they believe this was an isolated incident and not a pattern of stalking, and said there was no evidence to suggest the men were involved in the killings. Then, Wednesday, December 7th. Investigators, this is the first time we hear about it. Investigators, December 7th, they are interested in speaking with the occupants or occupants of a white Hyundai Elantra. Investigators believe the occupant or occupants of this vehicle may have critical information to share regarding this case. Friday, December 9th. This would be the same day that WSU, Washington State University, its last day of classes for 3 of the classes that Bryan was teaching, undergrads. So December 7th, alert goes out for the white Elantra. December 9th, last day for teaching for Bryan, if he was indeed still continuing to teach, which the Professor Snyder would not comment on. As far as any updates, Friday, December 9th, that's when the police said they have received an overwhelming number of tips related to their search for a white sedan. Investigators were working through more than 6,000 tips. And this is when they decided to turn it over to the FBI. Due to the number of tips received, Moscow is redirecting everything to the FBI call center to help sort through those leads. Monday, December 12th. Quote unquote, we are still 100% committed to solving this crime, Police Captain Lanier said in a video update on the investigation. We're not releasing specific details because we do not want to compromise this investigation. It's what we must do. We owe that to the families and we owe that to the victims. We want more than just an arrest, we want a conviction. Again, that was during finals week that quote came out by the police department. He also was quoted as saying, they have spent hours sorting through and trying to come up with the most relevant tips first for the investigators to follow up on. They have re-interviewed some of the folks we've interviewed earlier in this investigation to clarify information. Now, that was a big one for me. So Monday, December 12th is the first time that we're hearing about re-investigate, like you're re-interviewing Monday, December 12th, based on what you've had up to that point. They're still telling everybody in Moscow to be aware of their surroundings. But he closed with saying on Monday the 12th, this is not an indication of a specific elevated risk, but something that we should just be, just be aware of our daily surroundings, period. Thursday, December 15th. This is where the Goncalves' family, they publicly make it known of their frustrations, and they express frustration over police communications on the status of the investigation into the killings in an interview aired on NBC's Today Show. Again, that was December 15th. She made it known that on the day that they found out about the deaths, the murders, a couple hours before they were ever notified by any sheriff, they were getting phone calls. She's saying that we found out by people calling us, and then the sheriff showed up about 3 hours later. And then they asked about the car. And Christy said, describing learning about the police interest in a white sedan, and that she had learned about it from reading about it in a news release sent to her by someone else. She said that my first thought just was like, how long have they had this information? Where did they get this information? Was it on a camera? What's going on? Again, that was on Thursday, December 15th. Something that I thought was interesting in today's presser was that the chief says that every day we provided the families with updates daily. And that's just that's conflicting with what we've all been told. So that was interesting for me to hear. Now, December 29th. So Thursday, December 29th. Police said that they have received about 20,000 tips through more than 9,025 emails, almost 5,000 phone calls, and then just over 6,000 digital media submissions, while having conducted over 300 interviews in the case of the 4 students laying on an off-campus home. Also, on the 29th of December, the police said that they have worked with a property management service company to remove potentially biohazards and other harmful substances used to collect evidence. The home will be turned over to the property management company. And then we get to today, which is December 30th, Friday, December 30th. A suspect in the students' murders was arrested in Pennsylvania, Pocono Mountains region, law enforcement sources say. And so that brings us here to today. So let me take a look here at chat. I have not seen anything. Again, thank you guys for being here. Imagine Peace. Curious if the route from Washington College to the University of Idaho passes through the area where the dog was skinned. What is his motive? Great question. What is up, VA Scorpio? Hopefully you're doing well. Let me put this back up. There you go. Again, this was today. The family telling ABC Friday, December 30th, that they do not know Bryan, but are seeing connections between 2 that they aren't ready to discuss yet. The family said they are happy, relieved, and thankful that there has been an arrest. So what do we think that means? Again, in a 10-week period, that would be the only amount of time that Bryan would have to run into anybody. Again, this is an isolated attack, targeted attack. And then the family says today that they don't know Bryan, but are seeing connections between 2 that they aren't ready to discuss yet. I don't know if that would be that law enforcement isn't ready to discuss yet, or that the family isn't ready to discuss yet. That was a great question. I just saw that right there. We're just talking about the right here. I did notice that too. Why did they say that they found, an Elantra, not the Elantra? You have to remember, everybody that's in Idaho is in Idaho, and everybody that's in PA is in PA. So Chief Fry, obviously in Idaho. That car was taken in today. So now his family was ties with like HVAC. He's done some work with being a, kind of like a campus police type thing. Um, why this house? Why these four? Yep, the car was seized there. Yep, his own paperwork says that he was could he possibly be a hitman? Um, I have him in Washington for 10 weeks. He gets there in the end of August, September, October, 2 weeks, November 13th, technically November 12th night, going into the 13th, and kills 4 people with a knife. And thank you very much there. Pretty is as pretty does. Good job on this. It's very factual. 100. There's a lot of fake accounts right now that people are making up for this man. And I think people that are doing that just, wow. No words. No words. Talk about some. I think that people should be getting in trouble for that, to be honest. I mean, wow. Let's talk about that. Maybe jealous that they could party and drugs, but he couldn't any longer. You know, 10 weeks. 10 weeks to cross, one of these people that's targeted, isolated. To say something's targeted and isolated, this is an isolated incident. That's like what you use when your husband, kills his wife. Yeah, like that's a motive. uh, Isolated, like he's not going to go and kill anybody else. He doesn't have any motive to go kill anybody else. He killed his wife because of XYZ. An isolated target. It's usually domestic. Um, but I went back and checked, and they use the words isolated. It's not just targeted. Because I think that this was targeted in the terms of that he was putting together, like, here's a questionnaire. I'm going to ask all these people to partake in this so-called, research. Whose research was it? You know, what professor approved this? You know, um, when someone wants to say he was stalking on IG, how do you know them on IG? How do you come across them on IG? They just pop across your feed. Um, Again, just 10 weeks, and it's normal when people come across your feed. I think that has a lot to do with also location and things that you have in common. So, um, if this was approved by the university, what part was it approved by? Because he put these out in May of 2022. He was already graduated. He'd already graduated in May of 2022. That's when he put that post out on Reddit. So he graduated. So how would that be? Um, did he post that afterwards just to have then his own thing? I mean, if that's the case, he would have been needing to post that to try to find people back in like 2021, like December or January 2022. But to post that in May of 2022, that's you're done. You're done. So also, he lived in PA his whole life. He went to school in PA, did everything in PA, and then decides to go do his PhD in Washington. So he drove then cross country and arrives in August, starts his classes, teaches 3 classes, um, and then within 10 weeks kills 4 people. Let me ask you guys a question. Here's for the thinkers. So this has made, news upon news upon news upon news. You're going to school in Washington. Your family lives in PA, so you're going to go there for the holidays and see them. Why wouldn't you fly? Why would you drive? Especially during the winter, and you don't know what type of weather you're going to be able to go through and storms and stuff like that. Why wouldn't you fly? Would it be something normal that he would drive it knowing that he has to turn right back around and go back and do it with a car like that? But then when he gets home, okay, his family's talking about, oh God, have you been seeing that stuff on the news that happened right next to your college? You're going to talk to your son about he's a criminal justice dude. This is like right up his alley. Aren't you going to talk to him about it? So they would have had discussions and be like, oh yeah, can you imagine that they're looking for this Elantra? Oh my God, Bryan, you have an Elantra. You have an Elantra. Aussie girl, thanks for that. There you go. He's 10 minutes from the area. Bryan, maybe we should call you. Maybe we should call the FBI and your white Elantra. Can you just imagine having a conversation like that? So curious if he had bought a plane ticket and then ended up not using his plane ticket and drove. Usually people buy their flights like way more in advance because it's way cheaper, right? So, how you can throw people off in an investigation when you are questioning somebody, be like, oh, hey, I noticed that you drove home. But I noticed that you bought a plane ticket three weeks ago. Why didn't you use your plane ticket? You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I had it as he drove it's just tied back to the family. It was a Kia, but just think about that type of talk with your family. You're 10 minutes away. Criminology. This is all over the news. Looking for a white sedan. Looks like a 2011, 2013. Fits the description of what your kid has. Crazy, huh? And then you got your parents thinking too, well, Bryan, I thought you were flying home. Yeah, well, didn't you already buy your ticket? Yeah, I'd rather drive. I don't know. Like, just think about all that. Think about the family just thinking about back, Oh, right. I thought you were saying in Washington. I'm just curious of what his plan was. Did he get out of Dodge right away? Bryan, why are you home so early? Don't you have like, oh, well, they're allowing us to teach remotely because of the crazy person that did that. So I went ahead and just got out of Dodge too. Like, I mean, what are you doing home so soon? So these are type of questions though, when you're asked that really have nothing to do with a way that an investigator and an interrogator could ask you these type of questions. You think that you're just answering something, but you're really going to tie yourself up with. So um, I'm going to show you guys this interview here. One second there. I'm just pulling up these two different interviews that I want to show. Sorry about that. I was definitely muted, so I wasn't even talking though. So hold on one second. I'm just pulling something up for you guys. Lana said she'd be right back. Wow, you scared me. So again, just one second here. Let me pull this up for you guys. All right, so that was a look there at that first, it's considered like the second floor apartment. So yeah, they're there in Washington. They have a team there. They have a team in PA. But what led them to Bryan in the first place? Um, right off the rip, talking about this as an isolated, targeted. What was at that crime scene? What was there? What did investigators see that where they were like, "Oh my goodness, this is an isolated, targeted attack," right? I know everybody out there wants to say that um, web sleuths this, internet that, blah, 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 right? Well, what happens a lot in investigations? You don't want to say anything because you don't want to get yourself in trouble because it has something to do with, well, I can't say where I was because I was buying drugs, or I can't say what I was doing because I was cheating on my boyfriend. I can't say this because of that. So you don't give the whole truth. Okay. Um, when people start digging and start pulling stuff up and out, and it's like, well, I don't want people to think that I did this or I did that or whatever. It forces then maybe you to be more forthcoming. Um, so I'm very curious to know how this went from being something that looked like it was cold to Star Magazine having the title of their cover of their magazine a week before. "10 weeks he lived in Washington. 10 weeks." Um, I didn't see that. I'm so confused. Star Magazine had what? Yeah, Star Magazine had that. You guys, I get that cell phones have like pings and everything like that, but you have to get to the point for this person to even be on your radar. Okay. You have to get to that point. Who is Bryan to this house, to these people? He is a Pennsylvania person. Okay. He's a Pennsylvania guy. His whole life, Pennsylvania. Travels and is now, boom, in Washington. First time ever living on that side of the nation. PhD studies, teaching 3 classes, undergrads, and then within a 10-week period of being there, all of September, all of October, 2 weeks in November, 4 weeks each month, plus your 10 weeks. Who do you even know to trust when people say, do you think he had accomplices? Like, who do you think he made these amazing friendships with? That you would, yeah. When he saying, oh, did somebody hire somebody did this, you think somebody hired Bryan? No. 10 weeks. He's not from that part of the town, not from that part of the country. That's a really good point right there. Greek restaurant is the connection, people. Well, what's going on at the Greek restaurant? Think about this. You have a bunch of photos, right? Because kids take pictures at parties, they take selfies, yada yada yada, right? So you need to go through your pictures until you come across a picture that, okay, who's this person? Who's this person? Who's this person? We need to know everybody. We need to know everybody so that then we can look into them, right? How does this person get on the radar? But how does this person know know one of them, know all of them, know this house for authorities to be saying that this is an isolated incident? Isn't it just interesting? Okay, perfect. Susie Q finally said, somebody said DNA came back. His DNA is not in the system. Okay. So whose DNA of his families is in the system? Actually, the wording is that there was a link between the two, and I didn't know if it was that the family didn't want to discuss it or if investigators weren't going to be discussing it. So it's interesting to see because they said that they don't know him. They don't know him. So I put that up there earlier. Interesting. Steve writes in, I live 50 minutes south of alleged killer's home. Friend lives in the same community, same area as Eric. There we go. He was performing, Roberta, he was performing his own advertised experiment and he was obsessed with the girls on Instagram. Also probably had been at their house or at the corner bar with them. DNA under the fingernails. No, I do not think that he was the ride-along. Hey, Dralatina, love her work, love her brain. His fingerprint should be in system if he worked as a security guard and or in prison system. There you go. I think it's going to come down to when he did his little stint for what type of background check? What did he have to submit when he was doing his stint as a security guard at the school and stuff like that? It's going to be interesting to see that. Car that wasn't in his name. The feds followed him around, got his DNA off of a drink. Who knows? He was under surveillance. Yep, he was under surveillance the past couple days. Yep. I'm just saying, I just like to have a discussion with you guys. What do you think? Here's a guy, lived in Pennsylvania his whole life. Puts up in May about his little experiment researching that he's doing in May of 2022, which was 6 months ago, and which was after school when he graduated. So there's no school ties to what he put up because it was already done. So that's my hang up with everything. When people want to say that the school issued this, the school didn't tell him to do that. He wasn't doing it for any school thing. He was bullshitting, right? But he puts it up in May. Again, at the end when he would have been done. you would have put something up like that in January in 2021. Per CNN, genetic genealogy. Okay, so let me ask you a question. When you do the 23andMe and stuff like that, what do you have to submit to do that? I've never done one. So has anybody ever done that when they go ahead and they want to? Perfect. So check this out. I mean, how smart is the government? How smart is the government? Everybody that's done that has basically given their DNA, right? 23andMe spit in a tube. Think about that. Then what do they do with it? Who gets it? Where does that go? I love everyone saying spit. Me too. When I saw that pop up, I was like, that was funny. That was funny, Boston. That made me laugh. Where does that go? You spit, you submit it. Where does it go? You mail it in? You drop it? Do you mail it in? Is that how that goes? You mail it in? I'm just curious. I just want your guys' answers. 23andMe. Yep. So okay. I come on my live and I'm like, hey guys, I want to try this 23andMe out. What do I do? And you guys are all like, Lana, you have to spit into something and then you have to what? Yep, you have to mail it. Okay, perfect. You spit and mail it in, and then they email you back results. Do you hear that right there? Spit into something and then they're going to mail you back your results. Okay. Spit mail. Perfect. So think about this. But what do they do with, like, they have your name, now they have your DNA. Do you think that they now have that on file, like, for the rest of existence? Do you think they're just going to take an opportunity like that? And I've never done it. So do they tell you this doesn't go to anybody else? This is just for us. We're not allowed to give this to anybody. How does that work? Why am I laughing? I'm laughing because I'm curious what happens with your spit. I'm just curious what happens with your spit. Yes, they can get a warrant for it. Yep. Spit mail was the joke. You like that? Okay, so yes, eventually everyone is in the system. You see that? So they come out with a thing that says, oh my God, we're going to do this. Don't you want to know who you're related to and what's all going on about you and everything, blah, blah, blah. And this is going to be great, right? Well, there's a reason I haven't done it, guys. Because when I heard about it, I said, well, wait, who gets the spit? Who gets what, the saliva? Who gets whatever, my hair, my whatever? What? Interesting. So does that mean that the police had to, hey, we have this DNA here underneath the fingernails. We need to get a warrant to search to get 23andMe and all these other companies. We need to get a copy of everything that they've ever had. Then that's how we're going to test it because it's not in CODIS for us, but maybe 23andMe has it. I'm just curious how that happens. Blood Nurse 12 says, you mail it to the lab. It gets spun, separated, then goes into their machines to tell you what you are. I wish I didn't do. Interesting. I almost fell for it. I haven't done either. Exactly. Talk about how smart the government is, huh? What is 23andMe? They do not need a warrant. Okay, wait, I was trying to see that. They do not need a warrant, says in the paperwork. You sign that. It is made available to law enforcement feds at any time if they need. Thank you. That's what I thought. Okay. I did ancestry DNA and I spit into a tube. Only GED match and family tree DNA work with law enforcement. Hey, what's up, criminality? How you doing there? I like all the comments that say it goes to China. I'm amazed that I can even catch comments as they go. When you're on the opposite end here of StreamYard, half the stuff doesn't even come up. Yep, there are several DNA companies, not just 23andMe. Absolutely. Let's see what else here. We'll find out at the trial. Yeah. Before I wound this up or finish this up, curious what you guys think. Do you think he's going to fight extradition, or do you think this is going to be a process? What do you think is going to happen between now and Tuesday? Yeah, I want one of his students to talk about Bryan as a teacher. Jessica J says he has no grounds to fight it. He'll waive it, I think. What's crossed my mind here is because of his major, because of what he does, and because of how close this was to, what he teaches and everything like that. I mean, did he think that he was going to talk about and cover his own murders in his classes? Can you believe that? That he could be like, here, we're going to talk about a case. It happened back, 5, 6, 7 years ago, when I was finishing up, when I was actually doing my PhD. I'm sure you guys have heard about it, the murders out of Idaho at the university. You think he's going to, because if you think about what he was on course to do based off of putting basically like an application out there, his own personal little experiment, how he was going to then write a book about his own, but act like he's just studying because this is his field. So he was going to, he finishes up his program. He then moves back to the east side, East Coast, and takes a job doing whatever. Maybe he becomes a, professor. Who knows what the hell he wanted to do, but or goes off into some and is going to talk about his just crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Hashtag forever. One of the questions today at the presser, do can you confirm that Bryan said, has anybody else been arrested? How about Bryan going on his property and trying to talk to the dad, and the dad's like, get off my property. Um, you know. So since this guy is like a psych, major and everything he does, why do you think that they chose to, to arrest him like that and to do it that way versus like trying to score an interview with him? If he's on their radar, like people think he's been on their radar for a while, why not try to interview him to see if he'll talk at all? Jessica, thank you. Happy New Year's to you too. Happy 2023. I'm just curious what you guys think about that. I think it was interesting that they wouldn't answer how long he had been there, but we could at least say this: the neighbor from across the street from his parents said, well, she used it like this. She said the owner of that car, she had seen him driving it the past couple weeks. So I'm putting him, in PA for at least a couple weeks. But classes and stuff were done December 9th, the ones that he was teaching. Then you got your finals and, Now, with my interview with Scott Roeder, Scott said that he believed whoever did this would, their knuckles, their hands, their knuckles, they would be all bruised. That, you'd want show me your hands, let me see your hands. So, sure we can. There you go, I slowed it down for you. Scott's saying that your hands would have been bruised, obviously like right afterwards and then for a couple days afterwards. So also talking about, can a guy just go back into, you're talking about a guy that could be cool as a cucumber and go back into society like nothing happened. That's, somebody that can do that. Which, I think Bryan fits that. So again, this would be if he's at Washington State University because he resumes teaching class there. Okay, because he teaches 3 criminal justice classes. So was he teaching and doing in-person classes? Did any of his students notice him and what were his hands like? Do you have PayPal? I do have PayPal. I do have PayPal. I think, I don't know if Bumblebee's still in here. I don't know if Boston knows that she could drop it. I'm surprised he didn't OD when he got home. Cuts a couple of weeks, maybe. Bruising. DNA is in system from jobs he has had. Yep. Could this all be part of his research and experiment? Absolutely. In fact, I'll be talking about that in the next upcoming week about the 2 surviving roommates. Was that part of it? Was it part of the plan to leave 2 surviving roommates? I know Cash. Yeah, I think it's under. I think it's just under my name. I think that's that. Let me see, actually. I heard that too about leaving, so I'm just curious, just throwing out some questions there for you. Terry says, I think investigators were onto him for days. Dude was probably out about to flee, hence the arrest. I'm going to play something. Someone just put up a good point there. People are saying that, it was the Washington plates that gave it away. Somebody called an elite about Washington plates. Again, I have to go back to this, guys. He lived in Pennsylvania his whole life. He just arrived to Washington in August. That's when classes started. Could he have gotten there a little bit sooner? Depending on where he was living and how he arranged his, lease and terms and stuff like that. But he wouldn't have been there that much sooner. And do I think that he would have had Washington plates on a car? He just had been there for 10 weeks. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it probable? No. I think they'd be PA plates. So people saying that what led to this was somebody calling the tip in about the Elantra having Washington plates. I don't think that he would have had Washington plates. I think that he would have still had Pennsylvania plates within that 10-week period. Again, is it possible? Absolutely. Is it probable? I think that he'd have PA plates. I don't think heroin makes you a murderer either. Not at all. Yeah, check out the last video I did, the last live I did. I put pictures out there of what he looked like. Don't you have to change plates within 30 days? No. Drugs is the only link that makes sense. Well, you got 10-week period where they would have had to cross paths. His nose looks broken. I looked back at a different picture though, and his nose looks the same. You got to compare it to a couple of the other pictures. So, the family does not know him, but the girls may have known him. Yep, it's already been stated that they see there's a connection. I'm just not sure if it means that the parents don't want to talk about that connection or if law enforcement doesn't want to talk about that connection. And when they say that they don't feel comfortable talking about it, it's just because probably of the investigation. So you do have to change your plates if you get pulled over. What? What are you talking about? You guys, I live, let's say, I live here in Ohio. Um, I go and I move to Florida to go to school. Um, I'm a resident of Ohio. I'm going to school in Florida. I wouldn't need to do anything like that. Now, if I wanted to go um the bureau, the driving the DMV and say, hey, I want to make this my permanent residence. I want all to change my plates and I want to be, Washington and this, that, and the other, then yeah, I would have to go there and do all of that. But just because I decide I want to go to Washington for school doesn't mean I have to go change my license plate. That's just absurd, but maybe I messed up when you're saying you do have to change it if you get pulled over. That made me laugh. Maybe what you mean is that he's gotten pulled over before, so he had to change it. But it's just going to still go back to you, even if you change it. Metal Dog. To the transparency, do you think the girls did the survey and gave their names and addresses? No, I don't. I don't. I don't think that at all. I just like to go back to what the police have been telling us, and they use the words isolated, targeted, isolated, and targeted. Well, I want to know how Bryan found this house, found these people, and in a 10-week period, picked them. And, Kaylee's dad said, you didn't have to go upstairs. You didn't have to go upstairs. He's not a resident. He's not a resident of Washington. You can live in a state and not be a resident of that state. There's such a thing as your permanent residence, and I'm going to school, so CMK said, does anyone think he was in the house waiting for them to get home? I think it's going to be interesting. What now knowing that Bryan, like now knowing what we know about Bryan, um, him having an accomplice or accomplices, okay, in that area, he doesn't know anybody. He just moved there. So who are you going to find that's like-minded like you, okay? Going to be part of some sick game, okay? I'm going to go back to what Scott Roeder said, and the odds of finding two like-minded people that are this sick, no. He also said that some he believes that this person, if and when they're caught, that it's going to be because somebody said something. Maybe not even realizing, like I've been saying, you're looking at pictures. Well, who is this person? Who is that person? Who's this person? Who's this? We have to start eliminating people. We have to start eliminating people. And was this a name that couldn't be eliminated? Was this person in some picture in the background? I don't know. But the Elantra doesn't come out to the public and to the family until it came out to the public December 7th. December 7th was the first mention of the white Elantra, December 7th. I don't believe that his sister lived next to anybody. I think that that's a rumor. I do believe that she lives in PA. I cannot speak on that. I know that they asked friends, does anybody know who this guy is? And according to friends, the friends didn't know. Again, don't know if that's true or not. I didn't interview these people. I think that the crime scene had to say something. That they came out so early on, November 14th, November 15th, and did not get off of it, guys. This was undoubtedly somebody was targeted. This was an isolated incident. It is in those exact words multiple times. And now either they were that, hey, we have to say this so that our community doesn't go crazy. But I think that would be absurd. Isolated, targeted, early on in the preliminary investigation, that this was an isolated, targeted incident. Why does everyone want this to connect to drugs? I don't think it's a matter of wanting this to connect to drugs, by the way. I think it's just when you want to talk about the reality of things and everything that's going on, what are the different connections? People are coming in and out of a house that, were there house rules? Like, if you didn't know somebody, to just let somebody in the house. We noticed that the boys were the ones that could come down and answer the door, talk to the cops and stuff like that. So if a guy just walked up into your party and you didn't know who they were, don't you think people would be like, who the fuck's this dude? Who are you? I think that, yeah, people would. You're not just going to come up there as one person. So did they cross paths? Because, how would Bryan be asked to go to a sorority or fraternity party? He's 28. Did he go and try to live like a different life over on Idaho's campus and make it seem like he was some, 23-year-old and didn't, I don't know. But he's into the psyche part of it. Do I think that Do I think that he could play a different role and portray himself to be something else? Absolutely. Do I think that he was the ride along guy that was in this body cam? No. But the type of person that this guy is, maybe it jogged their memories to, hey, maybe we should look and see who has submitted a ride along, because I have the piece of paper right here that you have to do, that you have to fill out, and I put it up on my community tab. But maybe, hey, let's go back through and let's see, ask the surrounding cities. Let's pull and see who has requested to do, a ride along from this period to that period. Because that's the type of person that we're dealing with. This is a very, like, look at, you think he's organized, he's accomplished, he's, do I think he's crazy? Absolutely. But Gypsy Girl says, I have so many questions. Absolutely. I think everybody should have questions, because none of this is normal, or what at least society deems as normal. Yep, he did. Scott said he would be no older than 35 as well. He is methodical. Yep, he is. Lana, didn't you say previously that Emily was the one who called the police? Never in my life have I ever said anybody that has called the police. Also, Bryan went to school with Xana's sister Jasmine. No, he didn't go to school with Jasmine. You guys, he comes to Washington after he's done so much schooling in Pennsylvania. Okay, he's not going to school with undergrads. He is teaching 3 criminal justice classes, okay, under the direction of Professor Snyder. And he is in a PhD program, okay? He is not in school with 18, 19, 20-year-old people, 21, no. And I've never said anybody that has ever called the cops, the police. It has been said people think that this was a thrill. I think it was thrill to act out this kind of attack. I think that this person has a plan after the fact. If they had a plan like this before the attacks, I think that this person would have a plan after the attacks. It's not so much that I'm gonna get away with it. Well, what does it mean to get away with something? Like, what do you think someone like this, who is studying this type of and asked the questions that he did in that questionnaire? Oh man, I wish when the cops would have asked me this, I wish I would have never talked. I wish I would. He's asking all of these questions to see what all these people are going to say. And it has to do with after the fact. It has to do with after the fact. Yeah, Scott was on point. Yeah, I want to know what his students are going to say, He's very prepared. And then people can say, though, also on the other hand, well, how prepared was he? He got caught. He got caught. Well, I'm very curious to see how he got caught. Because if there's not a connection to this man and those 4, then how did he get caught? Think about that. And everyone's going to say, DNA, 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 right? Okay, well, we'll see. How was this guy on the radar? So the only way you're going to say DNA is he was already in the system. I think somebody talked a little bit. Right now, I think somebody talked a little bit. His spit. That's how I believe if there's a chance that his DNA is in the system, depending on what he had to do with that security job. But see, he's smart enough, he would know that his DNA would be in there, right? So he didn't think stabbing 4 people, that there's a really good chance at a struggle. Remember, killing people with a knife is very intimate. Again, if you just joined us, you guys can fast forward or rewind rather and listen to some of the questions I posed, because I think that it'd be interesting to hear, was he always planning on driving home for the holidays? Did he ever buy a ticket in advance for your travel expenses or whatever? Damn right. At least gas isn't crazy how it was before, man, when gas was $5 a gallon. Thank you so much. That was very kind. Very kind. Thank you so much there. What if he had planned to fly home and he had a plane ticket and then he didn't use it? Oh, well, you're planning on flying home. Why'd you drive home? What was he planning on doing with the car? Dr. Latina. And 100, your point about the ride along as a risk factor for a crime was brilliant, even though suspect does not resemble ride along guy. Oh, yeah, he's definitely not the ride along guy. But I think that when that's pointed out, it could then, hey, maybe we need to look into, let's pull the documents. Let's see who's filled out these. Let's see who has done it. He's just that type of person. You don't think he wants to know response times. You don't think he wants to know who would show up, like who gets called. You guys, it was almost like he kind of committed like this 4 perfect murders in a way. No? Isolated, targeted incident. This is an isolated, targeted incident. The crime scene, based on the crime scene, we were able to say that early on in the preliminary investigation, and they said that in quotes on November 14th and November 15th. The 911 call was November 13th at 11:58. They said that within a day. I want to know if people are going to take the stand and be like, yep, I was interviewed by Bryan, and actually I saved my email that I had responded with, so here it is. So you're going to have all these response emails. Has he have killed before? If you're just talking about it right now, I will say this: he lived in Pennsylvania his whole entire life. The kills that happened, that people are trying to say this is a serial killer, is tied to other crimes that were out in the Oregon area. He wasn't living there. He didn't move to Washington until 2022, August. So I have a hard time placing him there unless he did school visits. And when he was on those school visits, he did stuff like that. So I do believe that right now they would have the toxicology okay back. Um, and this is why Scott Roeder I said it. He's like, I disagree when someone would say that the toxicology isn't important. Um, Overpowering people and using a knife to kill 4 people. Um, I definitely think that the toxicology is important. 100. Start looking around the Pennsylvania area, seeing if there's any, a knife. A knife. And Chief Fry was pretty adamant when he said we haven't found the murder weapon. He didn't say weapons. So I like to pay attention to little words like that. I believe that we're only looking for one murder weapon. And so that tells me that the order of how the victims were killed, since it was one murder weapon, there's a good chance to know that order. So, email address, it's the Mind Challenge. You just here. And Dr. Latina there, the Mind Challenge is the PayPal. It's under both, like my name and the Mind Challenge. Now, I do want to end by saying this. Do I think that he called into a show? Do I think that he was writing on Reddit? Do I think that he was doing any of these things? That would go. It's interesting about the whole Reddit part because he actually posted on Reddit to find the people. So would he then go ahead and use Reddit after the fact? I'm going to leave that as a possibility. But do I think that he would call in? I don't know. That one's more. I see more of him being like a hide behind the computer type, but putting out his voice and stuff like that. I don't know if he'd want to do that. So you guys, he's a psychotic. Have you guys ever seen the movie Inside Man with Denzel Washington? Okay. If you guys have never seen the movie Inside Man, watch it. Can you get the results from Bryan's survey? Oh, no, I'll try. No, Inside Man. It's Gerard Butler and Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington's a detective, and Butler's family basically is killed in front of him. And Denzel, or I'm sorry, it's not Denzel Washington, it's Jamie Brown or Jamie Foxx, and he cuts a deal with the people that killed Gerard Butler's family, and he's like, "Why would you cut a deal with the devil and do this?" And because he's like, "Well, we can get the one guy." He's like, "No, that's this. You're gonna let this other guy go? Like they both did it. He's lying. It's a lie." So, anyways, moral of the story is that Butler he portrays this guy as very smart, and when they interview one of his friends, he says, "Let me tell you something. If Butler got arrested and you arrested him and he's in jail and he's in prison, there's a reason. He like that's what he wanted. He wanted to do that." So I think about this guy and I just think that somebody like this needs to be they want to know everything about this man because I think he's that dangerous. Law abiding citizen. That's it. Did I say Inside Man? That's my fault. But at least Inside Man did have Denzel Washington in it. That's probably why I was saying him. But yeah, Law Abiding Citizen, that's the one. And he wanted to be put in prison. I'm not saying that this guy wanted to be put in prison, but he's that type that he's thinking, 1 to 5 steps ahead. And I do think that he would have thought about the day about getting caught and how he would do this, okay? So with that said, I think there's a reason that they said that they wanted everything. And they're asking for anybody out there. They basically were like giving the green light to all the sleuths. Get everything you can on this man and turn it in. So start digging. So I think that he's dangerous. No, you're definitely not the only one. Am I the only one, the only crazy, thinking there's so much more than this random dude going in and murder? You're not wrong because the police told us you're not wrong, GH. Am I the only crazy thinking there's so much more than this random dude going in and murdering these kids? GH, you're not crazy because the police told us that there's much more. This was a targeted, isolated crime. The key word is isolated. There could be targets and it not be isolated. Isolated target attack. So the police told us. So GH, you're not wrong for thinking that because that's what we've been told the whole time. I do believe that there is a connection. I don't think that he just got in his car and drove around. Because remember, this was planned, this was methodical, this was thought out, this is premeditated. He went over there with the intent to kill these people at this house. Why? Because he thought he could get away with it? Because why them? All right, guys. Until next time, I want to say thank you for the mods for being in here with me 3 times today. I want to thank the members and the subs for being with me 3 times today. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be putting out a timeline of we're looking for Sherry. She's 60-year-old mom, wife, daughter, friend, missing, ridiculously suspicious circumstances to the point that when you hear about it, you're going to be like, what? So again, searching for Sherry tomorrow morning. I already put a thumbnail out there and a link. Please join me to try to get pressure put on people to start talking. Nobody is talking, not even the family. Nobody is searching for Sherry. Everybody claims to be such Christians in this group, and they're having these, not celebrations, but, silence at church and stuff like that around our area. No. Lot of falsehoods going around. So I was able to get my hands on a bunch of stuff over the past couple days, making phone calls, and I want to put that out there, and I want you guys to see it all. So Sherry's in PA. Sherry's from PA. Bryan's in PA. I mean, talk about a sign there to land to get your ass in PA. So thank you guys so much. Yep, I need all TNT, all hands on deck tomorrow. And I'm going to push it back so that starts right at noon. So, but thank you guys so much. And want you guys to see everything that I was able to get so far, and what more we're going to get. So again, thank you guys. Thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you so much for the new members. Do me a favor and hit the thumbs up. Feel free to share the video. Let's keep the facts of everything at the forefront, because this is now when building a case and keeping it where it needs to stay and everything like that. But back before, we're trying to get information to see who could possibly be involved. Okay, well, let's go ahead and trust law enforcement here. And they got their guy. Now let's go out there and find every possible thing we can to help them. Anything we can on Bryan. Okay, that's what we're going to focus on. All right, you guys stay safe. And we'll chat tomorrow. Bumblebee, Hot Ham Radio. I'm going to have to work on my voice, man. I've been talking so much lately. So I do apologize for all the clearance of my throat, but woo. Dr. Latina, no, thank you so much. I just saw my phone. PayPal for $100. Now, that's going to get me there back and a red roof stay. If anybody is in the Pennsylvania area or on the border and wants to be part of the search, I will be posting about that information for a Monday search. So for searching for Sherry. And we're doing it a little bit differently, as we're going to be going around and searching for surveillance in the last days here, which would have been like a 30-day period before we could possibly lose surveillance. So we're going to go out there and try to get as much surveillance as we can from the neighborhood she lived in, and then all the way to businesses. I was able to track down where her vehicle was, and it was not towed. And in fact, somebody drove it there, got out of the car, shut the door, locked it all up, and walked away. So I have lots to talk about. JKC, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for the unsolved cases and news. Thank Karen. Happy New Year. Thank you so much. You too. Her name is Sherry Kiefer. Sherry Kiefer. And it's SHERRI. Not a Y, but an I. Warm water and lemon. Thank you. I'm going to do a hot toddy. I'm just kidding. You live in PA? There you go. We're coming to help. It's like everything's drawing me to PA. Turkey brain, I know, right? Yep. Yep. SHERRI. All right, guys. Until next time. See you soon in the morning, noon Eastern Standard. There's already a thumbnail for it. Let me see. I have a new intro video for Sherry, and let's go find her. 60-year-old woman just doesn't go on a trip on a cruise to the Bahamas in the middle of November and disappear right after Thanksgiving. Come on now. Pittsburgh. I'll be in Pittsburgh. I'll be all around the Pittsburgh area. Dear Lord. So you say Sherry Kiefer at noon. Yep. Sherry. Again, sleep well. Get some rest. Bring your brains tomorrow.